Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and today I'm going to be reviewing Solo, a Star Wars story. So, I have watched and reviewed Solo before on this YouTube channel, but since I'm rewatching all the Star Wars films, I figured might as well also rewatch this one as well. So, it makes some good sense. And I'm doing this before I do the prequel films, because I'm going to do the Clone Wars animated film, because it technically did get a theatrical release after the prequel trilogy, but before the sequel trilogy. But let's actually talk about Solo, a Star Wars story. This is actually, of the Disney Star Wars films, the only one that came out in May, and it's the one that came out on the tail end of The Last Jedi, which sadly I do think led to its performance in the box office not being that great, because as I think most of us remember, The Last Jedi was a fairly divisive story. I loved it, but that doesn't negate the fact that the fandom's opinion on that film was divided. And most people, I feel like they sleep on Solo. Now, I will say story-wise, of the Disney Star Wars films, it's actually probably my least favorite story, but that doesn't make it a bad story. And we also should address that because it being a prequel, many of the characters are played by different actors. Alden Aldrich, I can never get his name, but he played Han Solo, and he did, I would say, a pretty good job playing a young Han Solo. And there's actually one scene where, for a split second, I was like, that sounded just like Harrison Ford. In that moment, he did such a good job there. Donald Glover did an amazing Lando. All the actors did really good. And because those are the only two returning actors. Yes, we could talk about Chewbacca as well, since Peter Mayhew is no longer playing Chewbacca. And Giannis Sutanma, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, is doing that now. But Chewbacca's acting is always in body language, which is really a part of really just doing any acting as a whole. But Chewbacca, because of it's a team effort between the physical actor who is in the suit and then the sound team who selects what sounds to use to help convey emotion. It's a team effort, while with Donald Glover and with Alden Ehrenreich, they have to play their characters both by language and in the voice. The only team effort they get is from the directing of the cast members, playing off of the other cast members, from the costume design. So storytelling is always a team effort, but when somebody's basically is doing both the voice and body work of a character, you typically talk about them a bit more because their face is there. That's just how things are. But they all did a good job, all the actors as well. I actually would have to say my biggest complaint about the film has to do with Han's love arc in it with Kira, played by Emilia Clarke. And the reason why is because I'm sold on their childhood romance, but I'm not sold on like heartbreak or why things fell apart. I understand why intellectually, but the story doesn't quite sell it on me. Like, when you watch the story, especially near the end, like, okay, yeah, she's fighting with Han against Crimson Dawn. But then, nope, at the very end, she stays with Crimson Dawn and doesn't make a escape. And that's the part I feel like could have been better somehow. I'm not quite sure how, but that's where I think my biggest problem with the film lies, is in that last moment between Han and Kira. I feel like it sells that they have feelings for each other perfectly, but it doesn't sell that why Kira chose to stay with Crimson Dawn. Now, granted, when Crimson Dawn is actually secretly led by a rogue Sith Lord and could force Joker across half the galaxy, yeah, that makes some sense. That rogue Sith Lord is Maul, by the way, in case you don't know. So it does make sense from that point, but in lead up to that point, I felt like it didn't work. Like the fake betrayal of Woody Harrelson's character, Beckett, I believe, That twist out there and all that, and then Han shooting him, all worked well in the story, but not with basically Kira's thing with Crimson Dawn. That betrayal, that fake out, whatever term we want to use, something about it just did not land for me. But that could just be how maybe like I knew introductory was coming because this is a rewatch, but I feel like it wasn't telegraphed in the narrative properly or subverted. No, they subvert the narrative properly, because if you're going to not telegraph something, it needs to properly subvert the narrative. Graphed too well, so it couldn't be subverted properly. And so to fix that, they would either need to tone down Han's naivete, therefore it would have been telegraphed properly, it would have been expected, or they would have needed to lean up that it was going to be a surprise, not just for us, the audience, but for the characters in the story besides Han. I think Chewbacca, Beckett, they expected, but not Han. And that just didn't work. Han was too naive in that regard. Yes, childhood puppy love, but I feel like some telegraphing, some choices of how they conveyed it could have been done better for the sake of better making it feel fulfilled in the story. But with that all said, overall, I think Solo does a really good job at telling its story, telling us Han Solo as who he came to be. Yes, it very much leaned into the scoundrel with a heart of gold route, or actually more like the good guy who's just stuck living a scoundrel's smuggler's lifestyle because that's really all he has available to him at this time. But I honestly love more how in the original trilogy and in the sequels as well, they lean more into the scoundrel with a heart of gold. Like, Han can't sit still. He eventually fell back into smuggling, something he knew he was comfortable with. So I prefer the heart of gold, scoundrel with heart of gold, rather than good guy on hard times. I feel like that just fits Han's character better, though they do allude to that where he shoots Beckett first near the end of the film, so I think they did good there. That properly represented Han's character, and that was right around the same scene where I thought Alan did a really good job, and for a second I thought I heard Harrison Ford in the performance. It wasn't, but it just did a good job in that moment there. And so many other good things as well in the film. Han winning the Millennium Falcon by not necessarily out-cheating Lando, but by preventing Lando from cheating. And I just love how Han throughout this is always confident. I really love how he always had that confidence. And that's actually part of the reason why I think his naivete about Kira basically not being able to get out of the lifestyle did not work for me, because he was so confident. His one thing he was only one thing he didn't work out. You can see why it didn't work. He needed either to be, really misled. But again, that's my only problem with the story besides one other. And this is not really a story problem because I think it works fine in the story, but more of just how Star Wars always misses the mark whenever dealing with the topic of droid sentience and droid rights. Because R3, great character. I think some good stuff, like she could have been the John Brown of droid rights and all that. But in this film, they play that for laughs. Even the most supportive character of R3, Lando, is still very much dismissive of her. And I feel like that hurts the film in a minor way. Not enough to make it a bad film, but enough to be like, did they consider the full implications of it? Imagine if we were watching a film in the lead up to the Civil War and the person who was fighting to end slavery was laughed at. Oh wait, some people actually made films like that. It's called Lost Cause propaganda. But that's kind of a side tangent there. But what I really wanted to convey is that I'm just frustrated how Star Wars always seems like they're about to say something about droid sentience and droid rights, and then takes it away and backtracks it on or turns it into a joke. But that's more of a universe problem, a storytelling problem across the whole, and not anything with Solo specifically. So that's all I think I'll cover most of my thoughts about the film. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you always